So without further ado, please welcome Jay Sennett.
I want to thank Keith for Dr. Newby, excuse me, he's my buddy, my man up there, for inviting me. This is the second one I've done. First time I cooked. I was, and there you go. He initially asked me if I wanted to cook, and then he said, well, can you talk a little bit about eating on a healthy budget? So I said, well, Keith, 45, 50 minutes trying to cook something and then trying to talk about something over here, it's kind of awkward to do in 45 minutes. So he said, well, let's just talk a little bit. So, you know, I've been listening to some things and I thought about this. I'm not going to just tell you how to create recipes. I'll give you some interesting, what I think are interesting pointers. A little about me, Keith mentioned WHRO. I'm actually on WHRV FM, which is under the WHRO umbrella. I host the jazz programming Sennett in Session. I also host the R&B Chronicles on Friday nights. Any of you ever hear any of my shows? All right, 7 of you. Thank you very much, right. It's on 89.5 FM. And one thing I always mention is when I do these kind of events is to tune us in, because I think you'd be amazed and surprised at the variety, the plethora of programming options that we offer to you 24/7 every day in radio and television. Okay, a lot of informative things about your investments, about your health. It's not just, you know, it's just, I'm amazed. I've worked there 27 years. So I think I can speak comfortably about what we do for the community and what is offered on public radio and television. Also, Keith also mentioned I'm a chef. I don't consider myself a chef because that would be in the professional realm, out there cooking and making money. I consider myself a serious foodie. And I think this is why he wanted me to come here. And this is significant because I don't have formal training as a chef. I have great chef friends that have taught me many, many things over the years. I come from a family, my grandmother was born in Florence, South Carolina. My mother was born in Durham, North Carolina. So you know what that menu was like, right? And growing up in Pittsburgh, I mean, the collard greens would cook 6 hours, right? Yeah, I come from that family with that big piece of fat back right in the middle of the pot. Oh yeah. But growing up, yeah, we just become conditioned to flavors. Okay, now I'll say this again. We become conditioned to flavors. So over time, if that's all we're exposed to, and that's all I was exposed to as a young boy growing up, we would go over Deacon Wilkinson's house. Greens, fatback, chitlins, you know, butter, fat, salt. The big three: butter, fat, salt. Now, growing up with that, once I left home, I went into the Navy. Any vets out here?
Rolling.
No vets? A couple vets. Thank you for your service. Right. I got to a point in my life where, you know, I started to read. Yeah, I love reading. And I became, mainly because of my job, I became, you know, technological or technologically savvy. So I learned to get around on the internet. Every bit of information you can possibly think of is right at your fingertips if you know how to get online and I'm bringing this up for a point because, again, keep in mind, I'm not a trained chef, but the information that you need to refine and help you live a healthy lifestyle is right at your fingertips. Everything you need to know, every question you have can be answered on the internet. What the internet cannot do for you is engage you, all right? Because you're talking to a machine. You're asking a machine a question, does it give you an answer? I go to the Mayo Clinic site, for example. If I have health, one morning about 7 years ago, I woke up about 3:30 in the morning with this, I felt like I had a Ubunji spear in my side. And I'm like, what in the world is going on with my side? So I got up and I went to WebMD, typed in. I'm like, what's over here on this part of my body? Like, appendix down here, gallbladder's over here somewhere. Well, it's not showing up that much over here. I'm like, what?
And I had gotten so sick and I was in so much pain, I said, I got to go to the hospital. So I go to the hospital, and they said, where's your pain? I said, it's right here. She goes, it's probably a kidney stone. And it was, but my point is, that information initially, I was looking for what could possibly be driving that pain. And the same with food. It's the same with learning the health benefits of what we consume and what we put in our bodies. That's what happened with me. I got to a point where I said, you know, I'm an artist. I'm a musician. That's my other life. So I started to look at cooking as a creative outlet that parallels my art as a performing artist and composer and writer and drummer. Then it became a health issue for me. When I would eat out in restaurants, I would say, man, this food is like really, really salty. So I started doing the research, like learning. How many of you know the US daily recommendations for sodium intake? Does anybody know what that milligram would be? Do you know? So, louder? It's 1,500. It's anywhere 1,500 to 2,300. But our bodies only need between about 180 to 500 milligrams of sodium per day. But let me tell you give you a little scoop here. Most of you consume the US daily requirement of sodium by lunchtime. Okay? Same with the fat and same with the sugar. We're going to get more into that in just a moment. So I just wanted to give that information out, that if you have questions, if you're at home, if you have access to a computer and internet, if you have questions about how much of whatever you should be eating, it's there. It's right there at your fingertips. So try to become just a little bit tech savvy, okay? All right, and if you feel like you're too old to be on a computer, no, you're never too old to be on a computer. All right, so in thinking about trying not to get into, you know, how to make recipes and this kind of stuff, let's look at some pointers. One word I want to give you: moderation. Moderation. That's really important. I break this down because let's say you get up in the morning, 8 o'clock, you have a blueberry muffin with some orange juice, maybe an egg or two, right? So right there, you've already put down several hundred milligrams of cholesterol in the egg, particularly the yolk, right? Do you know that eggs are probably the one food that has the highest level of cholesterol? Do you know where to get cholesterol from? Do you know where cholesterol comes from? No? Blood. Now think about that for a moment. What's made with blood? Any dairy product. Milk, cheese, eggs, meats. In meats, the highest percentage of the cholesterol is in the fat part of the meat. A chicken wing. A lot of you, who does not like, by a show of hand, who does not like a chicken wing in here? Oh, the one person, you don't like a chicken wing? No? Okay, all right. The chicken wing has the most fat on the chicken. Do you know that? Because the fat is in the skin. That fatty part of the wing, that's where the most fat is on the chicken. That's why they taste so good, right? Seriously. So moderation. So you've eaten at breakfast, right? Now by lunchtime, you've kind of forgotten about, you're not thinking about what you had 3 or 4 hours earlier. So now, all right, you get this pasta dish with this white cream sauce, and you're drinking the soda, you know, you think you're okay because you got some broccoli on the plate with it, all right? You bought it in a restaurant, so there's salt in their food to flavor the food, but you grab the salt shaker because there's not enough salt for you, you see, so you put some more salt on that food. Then you have about a 1/4 cup of sugar you just put down with that soft drink. Do you know where you get the most sugar intake in your diet? Soft drinks. I don't drink sodas. I drink water. It's the drink of the gods. You cannot go wrong drinking water. Get rid of the soft drinks and the juice drinks because they're laced with sugar, laced with sugar. Now, that's lunchtime. You've already put down, the average person consumes about 3,300 to 3,400 milligrams of sodium per day. Do you know why? Because you're not thinking about moderation. Now you get into the afternoon, late afternoon, dinner time, right? So now you want to have that piece of fried fish, right? Maybe a baked potato that you put about a quarter cup of butter on and sour cream. More salt. You see what I mean? Moderation. You have to plot out your day until it becomes a situation for you where you don't have to think about it anymore. Moderation. What's that word? Remember that word, moderation, because once you start thinking about moderation, the whole good, healthy refinement process of how you eat can start to refine itself. Now, let's look at conditioning. Remember I used that word? We're conditioned to certain flavor profiles. I think salt is actually kind of addictive. We get used to that flavor of salt. So how can we substitute salt? Some options, you could use citrus, like lemon juice, or orange zest. You know what zest is? It's the peel, orange peel, right? Grated. You can use herbs, like cayenne pepper, or cumin, or sage, or rosemary. I was hearing somebody talk about herbs and other spices like that can work as great substitutes for salt. You just have to get used to the flavor profile. You know, it's kind of like smoking a cigarette and you want to quit smoking. So most people who smoke and want to quit, it's not like a light switch turning on and off. You have to work and wean yourself off of the process. The flavor, like if you were hungry right now, you can tell me if I'm wrong. If you were hungry right now and you walked out of this building and you smelled fried food cooking, is that not the best smell in the world? I'm not saying you're going to eat it. I'm just saying the smell of French fries cooking, right? And you know what? Our body starts to react to this, right? So it's learning to wean ourselves off of certain flavor profiles and creating and refining new flavor profiles for us. So think less about salt. Salt, sugar, fats. What's a substitute for sugar? How many of you like to bake? Yeah? All right, so you put a ton of sugar in your desserts, right? How about substituting honey? But here's the key. If you put honey as a substitute for sugar, then you're going to have to put less of the other liquids in your food. So this is how that works. You understand what I'm saying? So if your recipe, for example, also required a cup of milk, but you want to use a half a cup of honey instead of a half a cup of sugar, refined sugar, then you're going to have to cut back a little bit on that milk. Or if you have vanilla flavoring, or if you have, it might call for 3 eggs in your recipe, then you use 2 eggs. You with me? You understand what I'm saying? So, and it'll affect, it's not going to affect, it will enhance the flavor of your food, but it will affect the texture part of your food. You with me here? So you have to learn, just try it and experiment with it, just so you can learn to create different flavor profiles for yourself. All right? Now, there's a myth that eating healthy costs a lot of money. Michelle Obama tried for years to get folks to see. She tried to go to Walmart, try to get them to lower price, and then they worked with her. But then there's another part over here that fought against that. Well, you'd fight somebody that's trying to do something healthy for people. You know, she basically simply was saying, we need to get these prices down so people can afford to come in here. You don't have to make a lot of money to eat healthy. That's a myth. All right, so I got some pointers here for you. Create a budget. If you don't have a lot of expendable income, create a budget for yourself. An objective budget for food I'm talking about, okay? Decide exactly how much you think you can afford. And be objective and honest and realistic about it, okay? Buy whole foods. I'm not necessarily talking about the store, right? Talking about the whole. Let me give you a little tip on grocery stores, all right? When you go in a grocery store, you want to find healthy foods. Shop on the perimeters of the grocery store. Do you understand what I mean by that? Because that's where the eggs, the butter, the meats, the fish, right? The stuff that we should be eating on the perimeter. You get in the middle part of the store, then we get the box stuff. All right, we get all the processed stuff. And with that processed stuff comes tons of what? Sodium. Okay? So, shop on a perimeter more when you go into the grocery store. And stay out of the middle unless you absolutely have to. All right? Pay attention to, don't buy processed foods. If you're on a budget, buy frozen vegetables, for example. Right? But look on the back in the ingredients. If they have sodium listed in those ingredients, then leave it alone. You have to put some salt in the frozen vegetables. I mean, come on. Same with fruit. I was actually stunned a few weeks ago. I was like looking for something quick, and I broke my rule. I bought some frozen vegetables because I didn't feel like cutting up some greens or spinach or whatever. I just said, okay, I'll just get it packaged. And I can't remember the brand. I got the package out, and I looked at the ingredients, as I always do, as well as you should as well. And it just said, broccoli. It's like, man, something must be wrong here. Like no water, no salt, it's just broccoli. You know how rare it is to pick up a box of anything? Like if you have a box of spinach and you pick it up and it just says spinach. It's like, wow. And we actually think that's strange. That's how out there it is right now. So, but the cost of the frozen vegetables or the frozen fruit, for example, you buy a frozen fruit, look, if they add sugar, that's what kills me. You get in a smoothie, like you go in a tropical smoothie and order a smoothie. Why are you going to let them put all that sugar in it? Because there's enough sugar in the fruit. They actually, when I go in and order a smoothie and I say no, they call it what, Terminator? What do they call that? It's a T word, something they use, which is clever because it's really sugar. You don't want no Terminator, what is it? Something like that, but it's basically sugar. And they say, you don't want that in there? I'm like, no, it's banana and blueberries. Come on. Bananas probably have more sugar than any other fruit out there. But it also has potassium. If you notice, a lot of athletes that will eat bananas. Right? So if you sweat a lot, particularly during your sleep, get up in the morning, eat a banana. All right? I'm a little off topic here, but also drink a lot of water when you go to sleep so your body stays hydrated. That's for a whole different medical reason, all right? So, buy frozen vegetables or frozen fruits as an example to get away from the cost of the actual produce area. It's going to be more expensive. Learn how to cook. I don't assume. People can say, I think a lot of people, like women, for example, that have children, they cooked for their kids, not because they liked to cook, but because they had to. And so I know a lot of people, my friends, they grew up hating to cook. Even after their kids were grown and gone, like, they don't cook, right? Because it became like, it felt like work to them. Cooking has to feel good to you. So if you like to cook or if you don't like to cook, learn to like to cook for your health. Does that make sense? Now, there's a way to cook too. A lot of people don't like to cook because there's a lot of work involved. But if you learn to manage your prep work, to manage your time, if you can get your prep work out of the way, like cutting up some onions, cutting up some garlic, that sort of thing, set it aside, whatever. And then when you get back and you're ready to cook, that's why when you watch these cooking TV shows, all these chefs have all their stuff. That's because there are sous chefs in the back chopping up everything for them. So when they get on TV, all their ingredients are right there. So learn to prep better. This will cut down on your time, which will make your cooking feel less like work. Make sense? Okay. Moving along, let's see. Cooked meals, like I love, particularly when in the colder months, I love making soups and stews. Not just because of the taste, but because they can last me 2, 3, 4 days. They store well in the freezer or refrigerator for a couple of days. So I might have splurged a little bit, like I love making a potato kale andouille sausage soup. Yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Now the only thing a little suspect in that dish is the andouille sausage. Because there's a lot of fat, there's a lot of sodium, and they might have MSG. I don't eat MSG, monosodium glutamate, because it gives me heart palpitations. And it took me for years to understand that a lot of people have reactions to MSG that may not realize it. And there's always been this debate raging about, you know, the effects of MSG. The Food and Drug Administration says MSG is okay, so eat it. However, they put a qualifier on it. They say in small doses. But what they don't say is everyone's threshold for the reaction to MSG is different. And there's also a myth that MSG is only in Chinese and Asian food. Oh no. I cooked and I used Campbell's chicken broth forever because I love the flavor of the broth. But every time I would eat this stuff, I would have heart palpitations. And I'm like, my first thought, I fell into the stereotype, oh, Chinese food, I got to stop eating Chinese food for the MSG. Nope. I found out Campbell's product is laced with monosodium glutamate. So I stopped using that broth and started buying organic chicken broth. Haven't had them since. So it's, man, you just got to pay attention to really when you're buying stuff off the shelves, just pay a lot of attention to the ingredients. Always look at the ingredients. You can make your own chicken broth too. You know how to make your own chicken broth? But back to that soup. Potatoes, I said I wasn't going to give you a recipe. I chop up nice russet white potato. I skin it, take the skin off. Get some andouille sausage. You can also use turkey sausage. Not as flavorful, but good. Chop up the andouille sausage, little pieces. Get a yellow onion, some garlic, a couple bay leaves, some thyme, and that chicken broth. Saute the onions and garlic, put the meat in there, cook it for a few minutes, put the broth in, add the potatoes, the thyme, the bay leaves, the salt and pepper, and I tell you what, you will thank me. You will be emailing me, calling me. Man, I can't believe how good this is. Ask me after this is over, okay? See, that's one of the reasons why I didn't want to delve into recipes. But my point to bringing this up is I make a big pot of it, and it lasts me 2 or 3 days. And I don't mind eating that soup every day for 2 or 3 days. So it saved me a ton of money making that soup for 3 or 4 days. I probably saved $70. Just in, that's eating smart. Learning how to utilize your leftovers in a more effective way where it saves you money. Let's see. Look for sales. You might think that might be common sense, but you'd be amazed. I'm guilty of this myself. I go in, I don't look for sales first, I look for the quality of the product first. So someone might say, I love olive oil and it's better for me, but I can't afford it, so I'll go to Crisco, right? I go towards the olive oil. Olive oil, I'm bringing this up for a point because olive oil is the one oil I will splurge on. I will spend the money for olive oil. I might watch the rest of my budget, but I will splurge. Now, there's a difference between extra virgin olive oil and regular olive oil. Does anyone know the difference? Well, there's several differences, but do you know a couple of the differences? No, the price is pretty much the same. Price is pretty much the same. One is more refined and has a higher smoke point, what we call smoke point. In other words, you've had oil in the pot, right? And when you have the burner on or the fire on, you can start to see after a while the smoke coming up from it. When you get to that point with your oil, regardless of whatever oil you're using, that's when you're starting to get the nutrients out of that oil. That's what you don't want. Extra virgin olive oil has a much lower cooking point or smoke point at about 375 degrees. So it's not good for, let's say, frying chicken, because you need a higher smoke point with the oil for chicken, like canola oil, for example, is good for frying chicken, although it doesn't have as much flavor as olive oil. Peanut oil is great for frying chicken, for example, or fish. I don't really eat fried foods. I try to avoid them. I saute a lot of my food, but it's always an extra virgin olive oil. I might use grapeseed oil. It also has a high smoke point, so you can fry in grapeseed oil if you wanted to. Coconut oil, yes, it has a very, very high smoke point, but there's a lot of saturated fats in coconut oil, which are the fats that aren't good for you. You know, you want the good fats like are found in olive oils or peanuts, you know, flaxseed. Those are the good fat. These fats also, the monounsaturated fats, also help to lower your cholesterol. You eat foods that are higher in saturated fats, it's going to do a lot of damage to your cholesterol. Okay? So understand cooking oils. Olive oil, extra virgin olive oil is the one food I will splurge on. Like if I see it, it's like $8.99, but then another oil over here is like $3.99. I will splurge on that extra virgin olive oil. Okay. Man, it's like zoom by. It's like, learn to, I'm skipping over, I have so much stuff on this, proteins and carbs, okay? Proteins help muscle mass, they keep your muscles strong, right? You can find protein in what? Chicken breast, right? Nuts. So carbs are good for you because carbs help fuel energy, but too much of white pasta, white bread, not good for you. And I have a weakness for pasta, believe me. Pasta, rice. You want to lose weight, cut out all the white food in your diet. Think about that. You want to lose weight, just cut out all the white food you eat, the rice, the pasta, the cheese, the breads. That's how you lose weight. And people say, oh man, you know, I have a hard time losing weight. Well, that's because you love to eat. It's simple. You're gaining weight, unless you have a thyroid issue, which I'm not a doctor, they can speak more closer to that. But in general, most people gain weight because they consume more calories than they expend. Now, if you like to eat like I do, but I'm a drummer, so I'm real physical just about every day of my life. If you like to eat, then you're going to have to be more physical. You're going to have to get up and move. You're going to have to do that 10,000 step a day walk thingy. And if you don't complain about how unattractive you feel about being overweight. You understand what I'm saying? So if you eat a lot of food, huh? Yeah, well, no, I'm saying if we eat a lot of foods, then we're going to have to offset those calories somehow. Okay, we can't eat a lot of foods and just be stationary, because then we put on the weight, and that's bad weight. Okay, and once we start putting on all this weight, 80% of our health problems are diet related. 80% of our health problems in the United States are diet related. Just think about that for a moment. Before the Affordable Care Act was passed, the #1 cause for bankruptcy in households was because of catastrophic illnesses. That's insane in the United States. You don't want to get me going down that road, but that's a whole different story. But back to the grocery store. So you want to get your nutrients. If you don't get, ideally you want to get your nutrients through your diet. Your vitamin Bs, your E, C, D, right? But if you don't have a chance to get that way, get it through your food, then take a supplement, a multivitamin supplement. I take multivitamin supplement. I also take a zinc, a little bit extra zinc, a B6 or B12 vitamin, in addition to my multivitamin. So that way, you're ensuring yourself that you're getting your body's nutrients. Okay, I think I have a little bit of time left, right? How much time do I have left here?
About 5 minutes.
Okay, 5 minutes. All right. Let's see. How many of you buy bottled water? Do you know how much money you can save by getting a filter and putting it on your faucet? I'm serious. You can. You can save a ton of money. I started saving so much money just getting a refrigerator with a water filter on it, because I live in Chesapeake, and Chesapeake has horrible water. When I first moved out in Chesapeake, they sent out a notice, and I kid you not, they said, if you're a pregnant woman, do not drink this water. Then they sent out a notice, if you have pets, do not let your pets drink this water. And I said, I'm taking a shower in Norfolk. Since that point, they sent out and they said they cleaned up the water, and they have. But it's not like Norfolk or Virginia Beach or anything like that, you know. So you can save yourself a lot of money by simply putting a water filter on your faucet or in your refrigerator. There are so many things I can talk about with this, but my time is running out. So I want to give you a few moments to ask me any questions if you have some questions, if you're thinking about anything I said, perhaps, or if you're wondering about some of the things you might do to help enhance and refine. Any questions? I'll be glad to try to answer some of your questions.
So don't be shy.
I understand that you're not supposed to shop inside the aisles, but they have veggie pasta. What do you think? We should just keep reading the back of the boxes or ingredients to make sure.
Don't buy boxed foods. Period. And I know that might be intimidating to a lot of you, but remember when I said go back to the conditioning. See, we are conditioned to buying certain foods because we have flavors that we are naturally drawn to. Another thing about, my man, what's up, Congressman? I mean, to sending you out there, Bobby, like that. Made me forget what I was getting ready to say. But we have these, some would say MSG or monosodium glutamate is addictive. It's in everything. How many of you eat Popeyes, Bojangles, fried chicken? It's laced with MSG in that food. That's why I stopped eating it. Once I found out, once I realized what I was having a reaction to with MSG, I started doing the research, and I was just absolutely astonished how many places, fast food, and not just fast food, in restaurants, will put MSG in their food. And here's the one thing that I noticed about a lot of some restaurants, particularly in Asian restaurants. I will ask them, do you put MSG in your food? No. I'll say, I'll ask you again. Do you put MSG in your food? No. I said, okay, so if I eat this shrimp fried rice and I fall out on your floor with a seizure and it's concluded that I had a reaction to MSG and I come back here with my attorney, oh, well, you know, it's in the soy sauce, you know. But here's the interesting point about this. They are not, in some cases, technically lying. They are not. They say they are not putting MSG in their food, but it's in their canned products. It's in their broths. It's in their oyster sauces. So if you really want to avoid it, ask them, is monosodium, and then they'll say, say MSG, don't say monosodium glutamate, because a lot of people don't even know the longer term for it. Just ask them, is it in your broth? Is it in your oyster sauce? Because they use broth or oyster sauce a lot to make their sauces. Okay, so that's one little point. So another question?
Yes, thank you. I would like to know, I know salmon is one of the recommended foods as well as tuna. How would you recommend canned salmon? The fresh is very, very expensive, especially the wild caught.
That's a great question. Personally, I don't buy canned anything. I'm not a big fan of salmon, but if I eat salmon, I joke about it, I say I have to put clothes on it. Like I made salmon last night, I made salmon cakes. And I always buy the wild salmon, and you're right, it is more pricier. I buy that because the farm-raised salmon is not, a lot of the nutrients are depleted out of it. And you can tell if you want to know, not by price, if you want to be able, do you know how to tell wild salmon from like farm-raised salmon? The wild salmon is darker and richer in color. There's like a deep, rich orange color to the salmon, okay? So if you're going to buy the cans, I would look at the sodium content, right? Try to find the tuna or the salmon with the least amount of sodium content. And if there's anything else in there other than sodium, do not buy it. You want to stay as close to the natural as you can. Now, canned tuna is not that necessary. I would recommend canned tuna over canned salmon. Couple more questions?
One question. I'm going to ask you one question before it's all said and done. I'm going to let her ask hers first.
What suggestion do you have on how we should handle our holiday eating, which is coming up really, really soon?
You know what? I don't know if you're going to love this answer or hate this answer, but I say on holiday, go for it. But do you know why I say that? Because that's the only day of the year you eat like that. Thanksgiving and Christmas, I say, man, just knock it out of the park. just throw it down, you know. But then get back to that moderation, right? And I'm serious. It sounds like I'm joking with this, but I'm saying if you can manage the moderation, if you can control your impulses throughout the remainder of the year, okay? Remember, think moderation from the time you get up to the time you go to bed. Think more about what you've consumed throughout the course of the day. Moderation, conditioning, okay? So by the time Thanksgiving comes along, man, it's like all gloves are off for me. Keith?
Final question is one of the things my extremely lovely wife that's sitting in the back asked me earlier was, and this is something we have discussed because this is reality of what we see. In practice, patients come in because they're on a very, very fixed budget. And oodles and noodles or ramen noodles, whatever you call it, that's like the delectable choice for most people. Now, the question would be A, if they're going, because they buy 10 packs for like $1 or whatever they do. So the question A is there any way to make it not so? Well, I won't say that because I think they got the packs and they throw all the packs all in there. So we know kind of partly that, but just the realities are that people buy that stuff and they eat that stuff and they make that part of their dietary everyday life. What alternatives, if they're going to do this, what could they do potentially? If they, but what are some good alternatives to that would be extremely cost effective, yet still relatively healthy? I mean, because we run into this all the time.
Man, you know, when I was in college, that's all I ate. So I know about those ramen noodle things. First of all, that stuff is laced with salt. I mean, there's so much salt in there. When I hold a package in my hand, I can feel the weight, and that's salt. Keith, I mean, the way that I can answer that question is, again, you don't have to go. If you find something like that in the middle of the aisles, remember I told you about the perimeter of the store. If you find something like that in the middle of the aisle, chances are it's not going to be that good for you, unless you are shopping in Whole Foods because they have a strict policy about additives in their food. They don't put additives in their food. You pay more, yes, but the substitute for something like that, man, I would just say buy 2 potatoes. You know, bake a potato. It's filling. Put a pinch of salt on it. You put a pinch of salt and a little bit of real butter, not margarine, on that potato. you have eaten 20 times more healthy than you would if you eat 1 pack of those ramen noodles. Or if you really got to have something pasta-ish that resembles a noodle, then buy pasta and get some real butter. Boil the pasta, put some real butter in there, and some garlic-flavored olive oil. Or leave the butter out and just still use the garlic-flavored olive oil. In the water that you boil the pasta, get some asparagus, some frozen asparagus, cheaper than produce out, right? Chop up, inch and a half. Once you cook the pasta for 11 minutes, then you put some of the asparagus in that water and boil it for a little bit more long, for about 5 minutes. Then drain the water out, put the pasta in there with the asparagus, and put some garlic-flavored olive oil and a pinch of salt and pepper, and you will never buy ramen noodles again, ever. It's thinking, it's refining your taste, it's refining your flavor profiles, and it's within a budget. I think it's very affordable.
Well, thank you, Jay. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.